Ricky Chow. As a Cambodian American, Asian American, and child of immigrants and refugees, we do not condone his actions. We do not harm children, elderly people, or pregnant women. If a child needs water and cannot afford it, we provide them for it.
I have no problem with Black people boycotting Asian businesses in their communities and putting their Black dollar into their own communities. I support that.
And I need the Asian American community to understand that you did not fall out of a coconut tree, that the anti-blackness rooted in the Asian American community is the Asian American community upholding white supremacy. If you are an Asian American and you harbor anti-blackness within your heart, you're actually upholding your very own oppression. You're holding the knife of white supremacy to your own neck. Model minority myth meant to divide and conquer us. Just think critically, why does mainstream culture sow so much division? And why do you believe it? Why do you eat it up? I was a teacher for 2 years at many predominantly Black institutions, and I grew up in a mostly white town. So I know deeply what indoctrination feels like. Not even against Black people, but against what I was taught about myself. If we don't root out this darkness, if we don't break these spells that have been cast upon us just to extract from us, then that is such a deep shame on all of us, and the rot will just continue to eat anything that our community will ever try and build upon this.
The case of that Asian American store owner has sparked a lot of conversations online. Many Black Americans are not happy with how the case was handled. They're saying that justice was not served. And now we're seeing more and more Asian Americans siding with Black Americans. They're not only calling out what was done to that young Black American kid, they are also bringing back other similar stories that happened in the past, where more other Black Americans were served injustice. Is this the beginning of solidarity between Black Americans and Asian Americans? I want you all to listen to what is being said. As you're watching, remember that this video is only for educational purposes. Now, if you're enjoying it, remember to click on that like button. This is the best way to support us. Just keep going.
Anti-blackness is so deeply rooted in our community. I have said this a million times, and I'll say it as many times as I need to so you can get it through your thick skulls. The only reason why Asians exist in America in such a large population is because Black activists fought for our right to be here during the civil rights movement. White people did not want us here. It's not enough for Asian people to just be not racist. You have to be anti-racist, and you have to be speaking out against these injustices, or else they'll continue to happen. We absolutely owe the Black community solidarity, and the sooner that we realize that we're not much different from each other is the sooner that real change starts to happen.
If you are Asian and you feel terrible about the lack of justice done in the Rick Chow case, I want you to open up a browser window and type in Black-owned businesses and then the name of your town. We live in America under capitalism. Our money is going to talk louder than our vote does, or our words. And if you know that any business, local or mega corporation, has done Black people dirty, do not spend your money there. I have not set foot in a Target for years. Sometimes I go in there to take up their air conditioning and not spend any money. Sorry. Go try a Black-owned restaurant. I promise it's delicious. Find a Black-owned nail salon. Don't go in there expecting mega cheap prices, because a lot of these small business owners are navigating generational economic oppression in order to open their businesses. But like I said, what you get can be really, really good and worth it. Before you go spending your money at like an Asian store or other non-Black business, you can see in the comments, like in their Google reviews, if they have multiple people who have experienced racism there. If it happens more than a couple times, then maybe don't shop there. Anyway, this is a suggestion that I saw multiple times throughout my comment section from different Black people, suggesting that Asian people start shopping at Black businesses if we don't agree with the verdict, and I'm just passing it along.
An Asian American convenience store owner in Columbia, South Carolina, Rick Chow, shot and killed 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton in the back after wrongly accusing him of stealing water. And because this bears so much resemblance to the murder of Latasha Harlins from 32 years ago, it's hard to resist the feeling that we've made no progress. I know that we have made progress. I see work being done. I see exchange being had. I see coalition being built. But it is so hard to grieve and process the unjustifiable loss of a child. And it is the criminalization of Black people and the harm that that does to children in particular that motivates so much of my work. I became activated in earnest in 2012 with the death of Trayvon Martin. At that time, I was teaching a class in Hunts Point, and the theater that my class was held in doesn't get very warm in the colder months. So that day in November, I went, and the boys in my class, who are about 10 to 13 years old, were all shivering in their t-shirts. And I asked them, where are your jackets and where are your hoodies? And one of the students said to me, my mom won't let me wear a hoodie anymore because she's afraid that I could get shot. And then 2 years later with Michael Brown, those little boys are now becoming teenagers, and just watching them question their mortality from the lens of being Black and being aware that from a young age they have been viewed as potentially dangerous and criminal, and they are not seen as the individuals and the human beings that they are. And so I wanted to know, how can I help? I've known that when I was growing up, my dad referred to us as privileged minorities, and I wanted to know, how do I use my privilege to help others? I think that's where a lot of people start. And that's when I learned about the model minority myth. And when I first read about the model minority myth, it made sense to me. It clicked for me. I did not have a difficult time accepting it because I understood that it didn't diminish the struggles that my parents experienced throughout their lifetime and their hard work and how they raised me and my hard work and my family's accomplishments. But it made me realize how Asian Americans are weaponized in the United States to oppress Black people. And that made me realize that I am not somebody who is helping people who need my help. The work that needs to be done is on myself and in my community. And Asian Americans, we still have a lot of work to do.
This is not Rick Chow's first go-around. Cyrus Carmack Belton was not his first victim, apparently. It doesn't matter if that 15-year-old Black kid actually did have a gun, as they claimed. Why do we treat everybody else with a gun so differently than a Black person with a gun? And so what if he was stealing? So what? Billionaires steal from us all the time, and they don't get pew-pewed at. But again, as broken as this country is right now, and as unfair as we know the judicial system to be, it is not the role of civilians to be judge, jury, and executioner to teenage boys. And to the Chinese community and Asian community at large, if you let this drag you back into anti-Blackness, race war nonsense, we are giving the white fascists exactly what they want. That man needs to have his firearms license taken away from him and go to prison for murder for the rest of his life. His son needs to go to jail too. I think there might be still hope for him because he's young, he's still a minor. But whatever horrible racist thoughts his father put through his head, he needs to unlearn them before he can rejoin society.
Rick Chow was found not guilty in the murder of Cyrus Carmack Belton after chasing him down for 130 yards and shooting him in the back over supposedly a stolen water bottle. It is disgustingly similar to the murder of Latasha Harlins in 1991 when Korean store owner Soon Ja-do fought her and shot her in the back of the head as she was leaving over supposedly a stolen bottle of orange juice. I'm glad that a lot of other Asian Americans have spoken up about this already, so I don't have too much to add. I just want to be another point from which we can speak out against anti-Blackness within our community. The fact that these two events happened 35 years apart from each other makes me question if we as Asian Americans have even made any progress as allies. I've seen so many other comments from other videos regarding this issue from Black people saying that they feel like they don't have any allies anywhere. And you know what? If we as Asian Americans stand complacent while their children are being chased and shot in the back, we don't deserve to call ourselves allies. That's why I believe the most important thing right now is for us not to just be in solidarity, but to actively speak out against anti-Blackness when we see it. If we don't, we are upholding white supremacy and proving to people that we have a desire of proximity to whiteness at the expense of our fellow minority communities. I'm sorry, I really don't have any profound words or anything. I'm more angry than anything else. But all in all, we as Asian Americans need to do better. We need to show that we do not stand for the murder of Black children. We need to show that we do not stand for anti-Blackness. And overall, we just need to do more to prove that we are actual allies to our fellow Black community.
Every time I try to take a social media break, something happens that I obviously need to address because it is really important. Right now, a Chinese man named Rick Chow, who is a gas store owner, shot and killed a 14-year-old Black teen boy named Cyrus Carmack Belton over $1 water. if I cannot articulate all my thoughts right now, it's because I have so many and it's just kind of jumbled. So I'm just going to do a crazy word vomit because if you do not know already, I am a daughter of a liquor store owner that is in predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods. I'm not going to go into the history of why we're there and why it's obviously problematic and how it's predatory and all this other stuff, because that's not the point of this right now. The point is, as somebody who obviously grew up in a liquor store, grew up in a store setting, and also I've literally made a film about this it's called Liquor Store Dreams, my first film. It's about me being a daughter of a liquor store owner, as well as combating anti-blackness within the Asian American community and how do we bridge together understanding and generational divides. My second film that I'm working on right now is about Asian American gun owners as well as victims of gun violence. This story is very much at the intersection of everything that I've been interested in. And so I feel like I'm in a unique position to talk about it because I already understand what it feels like to be a store owner in a lot of Black and brown neighborhoods. We've had teen boys and girls come into our store, steal chips in front of our face. They'll go run out. There have been situations where my dad would go chase after them, and then he's met with them spitting in his face and whatnot. Or one time my mom got punched in the face. So to me, I'm like, I understand what happens. At no point in any of these situations warranted a gun or the thought process of I need to kill this person. To me, it's very infuriating, not just the blatant racism of Rick Chow and his whole entire family, and the racial profiling. I saw the surveillance video. The racial profiling, just everything that happened. Rick Chow should have gotten the highest punishment because you killed somebody. You literally killed somebody, and it wasn't self-defense. Let's get that really clear. When you go out, and isn't this gun ownership 101? As somebody who's not a gun owner, especially within our store, we specifically did not want to own a gun because we understood what happened in 92. Especially with La Cha Cha Harlins. Did we Asian Americans not learn anything? I think our community certainly learned a lot. And the fact that this happened, I want to say I'm shocked, but also this is America. And this is twofold. Not just the racist Asian Americans that still exist in predominant and store owners that exist in Black and brown neighborhoods, but two, the racist jury who understood, you know what? We understand. We're going to make this situation worse because of the racism. And they're going to be like, they're thinking, we're going to pit the Asian and Black community together because that's what they did. That's what they did. If they had just given the highest sentence, not full justice, but it's justice in this sense. Yes, we want somebody to be able to pay for their crimes. And the fact that the jury, I don't even need to know who they are. The fact that the jury, I already know it's racist. Because for them to think he went out, and there's a power play here. There's a power difference between the store owner and a customer, especially if the customer is a young person. In those situations where me and my parents have, when my parents got spat on by 14-year-old teens, my dad also understood they are children. My dad is a very angry man, and yet at the same time, he was able to control his emotions. And to me, there is no justification for killing somebody. Let me go back to the white jury, because I know they're white. They love to pit Black and Asian people together because they also want Black people to throw the first stone. So it justifies the police, the government, whoever, to feel okay when they enact violence against them. They want this to happen because then the focus is not on them. The focus is not about fighting the system, fighting them. They're gonna fight each other. And instead of boycotting Target and everything else, you know what? They're gonna boycott the Asian businesses, which to me, I'm like, I always say, I'm in full support of what Black people do. You should do what you need to do at the end of the day. Because a lot of people do not learn. They may learn through when their pockets are affected. But even when, I'm also thinking, even the corporations. Like, who's the real enemy here? White supremacy, anti-Blackness, which is pervasive and everywhere. And it's very frustrating because so much of our history should inform where we should be, and we're not. And I think that's the hard part. And if you don't see a lot of Asian Americans speaking up, I'm gonna repost everybody that I have come into contact with, because there's people out there that are talking about it. And I don't know. I there's just a lot of thoughts of me that's very frustrating for me, because to me it is very illogical. It's almost like, as somebody who has been there is no justification for your actions to murder somebody, to kill somebody, to literally gun down somebody. That is not self-defense. Do not fucking bullshit me with that. It's not. And this is coming from a fellow store owner. So, I'm gonna end rant here. There's a lot of things happening. I'll post it up. We'll see. 2x this.
Let me go through a couple things. One, slavery never ended. I will tie everything together, but stay with me. Slavery never ended. It was actually just the modern prison system. Two, US conquest never ended. It's just much easier to do a regime change and control other people's governments. So Korea and the Philippines, I'm talking in broad strokes to make a point. They are glorified US military bases. The US doesn't just hold hard power over these countries, many Asian countries. They also hold soft power because America exports its culture. The bedrock of US culture is capitalism, white supremacy, and because of modern slavery, anti-blackness. So when we tempt Asian immigrants to come to America that have consumed the American dream, the allure is the proximity to whiteness. But when you get here, at best, you're a cog in the capitalist machine, and at worst, you too are a glorified serf, a subsistence farmer, someone who has to work just to survive. And you realize you were tricked by the system, but instead of pushing against the system, because then you would have to admit that you are fallible, that you can be tricked, you instead lean into the oppressive system and uphold the tenets of white supremacy in the United States, because you think that one day you'll be rewarded by this. So that anti-blackness that you are performing and mirroring mainstream white culture becomes ingrained in you, and you begin to believe it, and then you begin to spread it and pass it down. And then innocent young black children are murdered without repercussion.
When you say that you want to help the black community, or you want to address anti-blackness, or you want to speak to your own community, I'm assuming you're trying to speak to the people who own these stores, the parents, the kids, the family members. I'm assuming that you want to reach them. But when you make your think piece on TikTok to explain redlining because you read it from a book, that's your privilege. You get to read from a book. And some of us actually grew up in those poor black and white communities and understand the situation better. But you recycle those think pieces, and ultimately you're not going to reach the demographic that you claim you want to reach. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's value to that. I think there's value to educate people on that. But I also think that you need to understand that when you're talking about this type of lived experience of people who are complex human beings, the easy way out is to say, oh yeah, all Asian people are anti-black. They're all racist. They want to exploit black dollars so that they can position themselves to be white and escape poverty. And it's very easy to make statements saying, well, it didn't matter that Cyrus had a gun. It's also very easy to say, oh, well, Cyrus shouldn't have had a gun. That's his fault. He brought this upon himself. I don't support any of those claims. Poor communities are ridden with crime and fear. If you ever grew up in a poor community, you know those are the two ingredients that cause a lot of the problems that we have in our communities. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of crime. And it's, for the most part, it's indiscriminate crime. You know, the older ladies, they used to come into my mom's nail salon. They'd be like, I'm gonna give my mom a fake name. They'd be like, Deborah, they got me. They stole my car. They robbed me on my way to work. They took my money. They broke into my home. They would talk about these things, and my mom would be like, hey, let me give you a discount on the nails. Let me give you a free nail, whatever. And the reverse would happen. A lot of you have never been held by gunpoint. A lot of you have never seen a kid hold a knife at your mom and say, I'm going to slice your mom open unless you give me $100. It's very easy for you to make your think pieces to blame an entire race of people and say, yeah, we're all anti-black, we're all racist. I see these creators over and over, they're fighting with other Asian people. They're saying, I don't care about your experience. I don't care if you were living in this community. I don't care about you. Because ultimately, whatever think piece they put out, it doesn't affect them. They live in Bellevue. They live in Cupertino. They got a white husband or a white boyfriend that drive a Tesla. It doesn't matter what they say online because that doesn't affect them. I'm heartbroken that we live in a society where there's parts of the country where a teenager thinks that they need a gun. But I don't need to ask the question, why does he have a gun? Because I know. I grew up with those kids who thought they needed street creds, thought they needed actual protection from other teenagers, thought that they had no other options in life. When you're poor, your options are bleak. People will say, oh, I blame the parents. I used to work with group homes and at-risk teens in San Jose. I used to have that mindset too. I would blame the parents. I'd be like, did you not raise your kid better? This mom pulls me aside and she says, Paul, do you know why my son is in a group home? And I said, no, I never asked. She said, I got 2 other kids at home, and he would not stop bringing guns into the house. He joined a gang. He went down the wrong path, even though we didn't do that. And so I thought to myself, wow, I'm hearing this mom explain to me, I had to make a decision to protect my other kids. It's not so easy when you break down all these different variables that influence people to commit crime. A babysitter. She wasn't really a babysitter. She was an older black lady, and she saw my parents struggling. She's like, oh, it's just you two. It's just you two raising your kids. Let me help you out. She would raise us sometimes. She would take us out and watch us. But she had so many rules. She said, don't pick up a gun. Don't do drugs. Don't watch The Simpsons because it shows bad behaviors. Don't do all this shit. And you know, she would always be like over and over. And she said, you know why I'm telling you this? Because I wish my grandkids had listened to me. I want you guys to focus on your education. I want you to get the fuck out of this city. This is not a defense of Rick Chow. I'm looking at the violent history, and I asked myself, you know, I had the same conversation with my parents after the 9th, 10th time of them being robbed. I said, Mom, is it worth it? Kids are pointing guns at you. They're pointing knives at you. They're throwing rocks at your window. They're spray painting chink on the sidewalk. Is it worth it? Why don't we just leave? She said, this is my community. I have friends here. These are the people I've grown to be in community with. What ended up happening was that she just said, don't come to the nail salon anymore. We wouldn't go anymore. You know, as kids, we used to. But after people started bringing weapons inside the nail salon, she said, no, I don't want to risk my kids' lives for my business. And that's what happened. But I had those same conversations, and those conversations that Rick Chow and her family should have had. Is it really worth it? Why are you killing people over water bottles? That's terrible. You strip a kid of their life, of their chance to change, of their chance to do better. I don't know much about the lawsuit. I don't know if he pointed a gun at him. I know they had found a gun, but that's really not the important part for me. These are the important conversations that you need to have with your parents, but also have with your kids. But I also have empathy. I understand them both. I understand it is difficult. But end of the day, Asian people with their businesses, we have a lot of power. Because over the years, as money, the black dollar is being put into our businesses, we get to leave. When my brother and I got accepted into Stanford on a full ride because my parents didn't have money, we did the college application. My parents were making $30K for the 2 of them. But they told the community, and the community was so happy. And, you know, Big Mama came in, she said, I'm proud of you. Leave. Don't come back. Get a good job. Don't grow up here. It's very easy to make your think pieces. It's very easy to condemn an entire race. It's very easy to blame the parents. Growing up poor is a very complicated experience. And ultimately, when we say the system has failed us, I feel that. Because I think that there were so many kids who could have had the same opportunities, could have had such a good life if the government had actually gave a damn. 3 years ago, when we were posting videos about Cyrus, people asked the same questions. How do we get more black-owned businesses in these communities and start building wealth? That was the question people asked 3 years ago, and that's the question people are still asking again this time. Because it's complicated. You know, if you're in those communities, you know how they gatekeep the supply chain. You know, a lot of Asians work with other Asians for the beauty supply stores, the nail salons. I don't know anything about the liquor stores, but it's a complicated thing. It's not just so easy to be like, oh yeah, open a business. It doesn't work like that. There's a history to it, you know? Like, getting a loan is very difficult. It's difficult to raise that much money. It's difficult to offer the same competitive pricing that a lot of Asian businesses do offer. There's a lot of people who get online saying, I'm not boycotting anything because these are my resources. When you live in a poor community, you don't have that many resources. And so when an Asian person is able to offer you a $5 meal, you take that. It's difficult. it's not the same as your lived experience. And I know a lot of these Asian creators, they don't mean any harm. I know that you guys don't mean any harm when you say these think pieces, but I just think that you don't understand how much more complex it is to be poor. All the money that I made from the videos on Cyrus and this one, I'm donating to the GoFundMe, and I hope that all the other Asian creators who make their think pieces, I hope that you guys ask them to donate their money too, because I don't believe in weaponizing tragedy to make money.
When it comes to that particular case involving that Asian American store owner, I don't really want to spend too much time debating details of the case itself. There are already enough people discussing legal arguments, the evidence, and the decisions that were made. What really caught my attention is the reaction that followed. For the first time in a long time, I saw many Asian Americans speaking publicly about issues of injustice regarding Black American community. I saw many Asian Americans taking time to acknowledge the concerns that were raised by Black Americans for many years. And honestly, that is something that really made me happy. According to the recent estimates, there are more than 24 million Asian Americans living in the United States right now. Just think about that for a moment. Imagine the impact that could be made if millions of Asian Americans and millions of Black Americans consistently stood together on issues that affect both two communities. Imagine the influence, the political power, and the social power that such coalition could have. Many Black Americans have asked, where are our Asian allies? That question did not come from nowhere. It came from a feeling that white Black Americans have often spoken up for the rights of other marginalized groups. They did not always see the same level of public support in return. I am not ignoring that there have always been Asian Americans who have always been standing with Black Americans. There have always been many activists, many scholars, many content creators siding with Black Americans. But many Black Americans felt that those voices were not loud enough. That is why seeing more Asian Americans engage in discussions about justice has been encouraging. Whether people agree or disagree with their opinions, the fact that they are participating in the conversation matters. The fact that they are speaking out matters. And what is more interesting is that many of these Asian Americans we saw in those clips are not only focusing on one particular case, they are bringing up multiple incidents that happened in the past. They are talking about broader concerns regarding fairness, accountability, and equal treatment under the law. They're looking at patterns that they believe deserve attention. Those are conversations that Black Americans have been having for years. I want to tell you that marginalized communities become stronger when they support one another. History has shown that when different communities fight separately, it becomes much easier for their concerns to be ignored. But when communities come together around shared principles such as fairness, justice, equal opportunity, and equal treatment, their voices becomes much harder to dismiss. And that is why I believe that the future in America should not be about competition between marginalized groups. It should not be about arguing over who suffered more or whose struggles matters most. It should be about recognizing that different communities face different challenges and that often those challenges have common roots. When one community experiences injustice, others should pay attention. When one community speaks about unfair treatment, others should listen. And when one community needs support, others should be willing to stand with them. That does not mean that everyone has to agree on every issue. It does not mean that every person must think the same way. But it does mean understanding that solidarity is very powerful. What we're seeing right now could be an opportunity for deeper conversations between the Black American community and the Asian American community living in America. It could be an opportunity to build stronger relationships, to learn from one another, and to find the common ground where people previously saw division. Y'all should understand that many ordinary people across different communities want the same thing. They want safe neighborhoods, they want fair treatment, they want opportunities for their children. They want justice system that treats everyone equally. They want their voices to be heard. Those goals are not exclusive to one race or one ethnic group. They are shared aspirations. And if there is one lesson that can come from a moment like this, it is that communities should not wait until an issue directly affects them before they speak out. The strongest alliances are built when people are willing to defend principles, not just their interests. Why many people continue debating details about this case? I think there is another conversation worth having. The conversation about unity. The conversation about solidarity. The conversation is about whether communities can recognize that they have more gain by working together than remaining divided. If millions of Black Americans and millions of Asian Americans consistently support each other on issues about justice and equality, that would be a powerful force in American society. It would be a coalition capable of influencing policies, shaping public conversation, and pushing for meaningful change. Perhaps that is a bigger story here, not the case itself, but the possibility that moments like this can encourage communities to listen to one another, stand with one another, and realize that progress becomes much easier when they move forward together. And that's it. Shout out to all of those Asian American whose clips were featured in this video. Shout out for standing with Black Americans. Now, I want y'all to tell me what you think about this video. Feel free to drop your opinions down there in the comment section. If you enjoyed watching this one, click on the like button. Mr. TA, your African brother signing off. Ciao.